The next award of the night is the Edward F. Hennessy Professionalism Award. The recipient is chosen by the Professionalism Committee, and this year's award goes to James A. Wade.
May it please the court. You can tell I'm an old fire horse. When I see this many judges in the same room, I know how to address them. My mother didn't raise a dumb kid. When I learned that this evening was going to be called Celebrate with the Stars, I said, what the heck am I doing here? And then I got it. I figured it out. This is Oscar night for the legal profession. But you can tell I didn't have anything to do with the program, because if I did, I'd have special awards that only I could win. For example, best cross-examination of Dr. Henry Lee before he became famous from the O.J. case. That's me. Best cross-examination of Woody Allen, because it was Woody Allen. How could I miss? As Hugh Keefe said, I still have fun doing this. And I want to shout out a thanks to my partners, past and present, for letting me have this great career. My partners past, because they let me enter a partnership called Robinson & Cole, which has been my legal home for 52 years. And I got to practice and know with and know two of the finest men I've ever met, Lucius Robinson and Ed Hennessy. I want to thank my present partners, all those youngsters sitting down there, for letting me to continue to practice after the age of 70, which is in our partnership agreement, because if they had kicked me out 10 years ago, I never would have got this award, and it would have gone to a much younger and more deserving person. I would be remiss if I did not mention that present with us tonight is Sheila Hennessy, Ed's wife, and her son Ted, who's an attorney down in North Carolina. To put it in perspective, Sheila Hennessy has been a member of this bar since 1961. When she was admitted to the bar here, there was one woman, Sheila Hennessy. And Sheila became the judge of probate for 16 years, had a wonderful career, and I'm sure she's enjoyed this evening tonight listening about your husband. A shout out to my son Mike, who is a lawyer at Cigna, and his wife, and my daughter-in-law Kate, who's the Commissioner of Insurance here in the state of Connecticut. I want to make a comment about my wife Laney, who's ill and can't be here tonight. I met her at law school, University of Virginia, class of 62. 2 women in her class. 2. She had a successful career for 30 years at the Travelers Insurance Company, and upon retirement from the insurance company, she went back to school, I think at age 52 or 53, and got a master's degree from Yale in the School of Forestry and Environmental Science. Not a bad career. I want to mention 3 women who have been very important to whatever success I've enjoyed. They are Ann LaRussa, Sue Eshelman, and Sue Tenori. The last 3 legal secretaries that I've had who kept steering me in the right direction. You can't tell how many judges they lied to as to where I was at any given moment. But as Hope Hicks said, they were little white lies. I want to congratulate Judge Janet Hall. She was my partner, too. And Ed Hennessy's pal, Judge Hall, and Ed Hennessy tried together what I believe is still the longest trial in the history of the state of Connecticut. It was the collapse of the Civic Center roof. We represented the city of Hartford. There were, 5, 6, 7 defendants. We were subrogated to the Travelers' Rights, and Janet and Ed, for a year, tried the case till they brought Bethlehem Steel to their knees, and Bethlehem Steel finally volunteered their deductible, which I think was $25 million, if I'm not mistaken. But another Janet Hall story, and this is either the best compliment to her or to me, I'm not sure which. But I can recall, and you'll have to correct me, Janet, when you get a chance, but I recall a situation where I was deposing a person in a case that I was going to try, and he and I did not get along at all. And I examined him for a day, and we weren't done. And Janet had to, because I was going somewhere else, I asked her if she would take over the next day and finish the examination of the witness, which she did. I spent another day with him. And as he was leaving, he was heard to mutter under his breath, "Geez, bring back Wade." True story, right? I want to congratulate former Chief Justice Chase Rogers and my partner, Ted O'Hanlon, who is Mr. Chase Rogers. And it was our assignment at Robinson and Cole to seat him at the Day Pitney table with his wife, because we were hoping he'd come back with 2 or 3 cases that he picked up from Day Pitney. So it's not too late, Ted. Go sit down there. But tonight is not about me. Tonight is about Ed Hennessy. And I can tell you this, for 37 years, Ed Hennessy was my partner, my pal, my mentor. He was terrific. He and I were 2 Irish Catholic Democrats who arrived at Robinson and Cole, and I think there were 25 lawyers at our firm. We were, as my late mother would say, we were both cut from the same bolt of cloth. We immediately understood each other and got along. He had my back and I had his, and you will not ever see 2 lawyers who had more fun practicing law than Mr. Hennessy and me. In putting this together, I wanted to sort of encapsulate and just listen to these words about Ed: smart, funny, witty, ethical, professional, ironic awareness. He had the irony of what goes on in life, and Ed enjoyed every minute of it. And that's why, to the credit of the Connecticut Bar Association, they named this award after my pal and my good colleague, Ed Hennessy. Now, back in the day, short calendar was on Fridays. It would start at 10, and we'd typically be done at about noon. Get this, it was Friday. The judges wanted to go home. And for Ed, going to short calendar was like taking batting practice at Fenway Park and hitting singles off of the Green Monster. That was right up his alley. And he was the greatest Red Sox fan that ever lived, by the way. There was a judge from Middletown named Red Palmer. He could be sort of grumpy, particularly with young lawyers. And I recall Ed being up there arguing what we used to call a demurrer, now a motion to failure to state a cause of action. And in his argument, Ed recites crisply and clearly a principle of law. And the judge says, "Mr. Hennessy, do you have an opinion that supports that position?" And Ed goes, "Yes, Your Honor, mine. We give opinions of law all the time." And the judge goes, "Well, you'll have to do better than that." But then he ruled in Ed's favor, and what Ed stated as a principle of law became a principle of law because the judge said it was. There was a truism from Ed: never, ever get into a fight with another lawyer. Why? You never know when he or she is going to be looking down at you with a black robe on, and they have long memories. There was a litigant in Hartford named Stanley Tucker. The murmuring I hear back there are lawyers who had cases with Stanley Tucker. Stanley Tucker was a landlord in Hartford's North End. He got sued big companies all the time: banks, construction companies, suppliers, didn't matter. And no lawyer would touch him. Nobody would touch him. So Stanley was pro se on all of these cases. And on Friday mornings, where a judge was sitting would set aside Stanley Tucker time at the beginning of the calendar to let Stanley handle all of his cases. And literally, there'd be 10 or 15 minutes of Stanley Tucker time. And the late Bill Moeller was there standing next to Ed Hennessy one day, grumbling about how Stanley's taken up this time and he ought to be shot. And Ed Hennessy goes, "What are you, crazy?" He says, "The Hartford County Bar ought to vote him a special award. He's got more lawyers working in this room than anybody else does." He was a passionate lawyer in the courtroom, hated to lose. I can recall an occasion when the jury had gone back the wrong way, and Ed came back sort of down in the dumps. And he said, "That's it. I'm done with this. I'm going to become a real estate lawyer." He goes, "Nobody ever loses a closing." When our firm is old. In 1995, we had our 150th anniversary. I was not there for all of those, but a lot of them. And Ed was asked by John Donahue, who wrote the history of Robinson and Cole, how is it you came to join us? And I want to read to you the quote that's in our history that Ed gave to John. "I clerked for Judge Blumenfeld, who told me much of the history of the Jewish bar in Hartford County and how so many older Jewish lawyers were discriminated against. When I went to interview a law firm, Judge Blumenfeld said to me, 'I don't want you to interview anywhere except Robinson and Cole. That is the only place in the entire city that I consider to be worthy of you.'" And Ed came to us in 1962. We were the only firm he interviewed. And his devotion to that theme can best be played out when I was with him at a meeting where there were a bunch of lawyers and a bunch of businessmen, litigants on both sides, and while the discourse was going on, somebody made a clearly inappropriate anti-Semitic remark, and a hush came over the room. And Ed Hennessy broke the silence by saying, "Where I came from in Worcester, Massachusetts, we used to say that about Protestants." Ed broke the spell, and the case went on. But the story about him that you may have heard, which best summarizes his abilities as a lawyer, the reason this award was created by Lou Pepe was the moving force behind it. As we all know, Ed died of pancreatic cancer and in May of 2003. And in the spring of that year, in April of 2003, while the ravages of cancer were going through his body, he argued his last case before the Connecticut Supreme Court. And this story was told by Chief Justice Sullivan to the new admittees to the bar that year. The court knew that Ed was not well. And his opponent was a young lawyer who forgot to reserve any time for rebuttal. And so he made his argument, and the court said to Ed, "You can remain seated if you like, Mr. Hennessy." And he said, "I have too much respect for this court to do that." And he got up and made his argument in a clear and concise way. And he noted, when his time was up, that he still had time. And he said to the court, "I realize I have additional time left, and I yield it to my opponent, who may want to say something in rebuttal to what I've said." And that's why Lou Pepe began this award, and it explains best the sentiment that's behind it. So finally, I want to thank the Connecticut Bar Association. This is really nice. It's a nice award. It'll take a place of honor in my office. And I don't want to sound ungrateful, but what I really would like is a certificate suitable for hanging. And I may be saying this on behalf of all the lawyers before me who've got this award. And the certificate should say, "The Connecticut Bar Association requirement for 12 hours of Connecticut legal education is hereby waived." You gotta be 80 years of age and your dues all paid up. So thanks, Ed. It was fun.